South Korea has become a strategic target for Vladimir Putin, and the reasons for this go far beyond the obvious. The war in Ukraine, which has quickly turned into the greatest test of military and diplomatic strength in the 21st century, has brought an unexpected player into the spotlight: South Korea. Despite being hesitant to fully showcase its power, this global actor holds a central position on today's geopolitical chessboard. As one of the West's most important military allies in Asia and a global leader in cutting-edge technology, South Korea has the means to significantly influence the course of the European war. However, its decision not to directly supply offensive weapons to Ukraine reveals the complex dynamics of a high-stakes game where every move must be carefully calculated. This stance, often interpreted as ambiguous, stems from the fear of direct retaliation from Russia. Moscow has made it unequivocally clear that any South Korean military support for Ukraine will be met with severe consequences. Among the most serious threats is a potential supply of advanced weaponry to North Korea, a historical rival, and an ongoing security threat to South Korea. And this threat is far from just rhetoric. The growing military cooperation between Russia and North Korea has not only gained momentum, but also underscored the increasing risk of destabilization on the Korean peninsula. With the escalation of this dangerous alliance, the question is no longer if South Korea will be affected, but when and to what extent. This reality becomes even more alarming when considering South Korea's strategic vulnerability. With its capital, Seoul, located less than 60 kilometers, about 37 miles, from the North Korean border, the country lives under the constant threat of ballistic missiles and artillery attacks. In response to this ever-present danger, South Korea's military industry has advanced at an impressive pace, establishing the country as one of the world's largest arms exporters. This technological and strategic progress has elevated Seoul to a level of global influence it has never achieved before. Yet, a critical question emerges. Is South Korea willing to jeopardize its regional security to take on a more active role in a war that, while geographically distant, dangerously echoes within its geopolitical interests? The tensions with Russia have added a new layer of complexity to this equation. In public statements, Vladimir Putin has described any South Korean arms shipments to Ukraine as a monumental strategic mistake. Moscow has made it clear that it could supply advanced weapons, including ballistic missiles and modern anti-aircraft systems, to bolster the arsenal of Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea. Such support would not only escalate tensions on the Korean peninsula, but also jeopardize the balance of power that South Korea carefully maintains with its northern neighbor. Another critical aspect is the pressure these threats impose on South Korea's diplomatic relations with the United States. As one of Washington's most strategic allies, Seoul faces constant encouragement and, at times, expectations to take a more proactive role in global crises. However, meeting these demands could open the door to military escalation on multiple fronts, complicating South Korea's foreign policy and regional security. These Russian threats are not isolated. They are part of a broader strategy to deter Western allies from supporting Ukraine. While Moscow seeks to pressure Seoul, its relationship with North Korea strengthens, creating a scenario that could drastically alter the military dynamics of the Korean peninsula. Under the strain of Western sanctions, Moscow has turned to alternative allies to sustain its war in Ukraine, with Pyongyang emerging as a key player in this effort. This partnership includes the purchase of large quantities of North Korean weapons and ammunition, which are crucial for sustaining Russian forces in the European conflict. In return, Russia offers advanced military technology, enhancing the reach and lethality of North Korea's armed forces. Such technological transfers mark a significant shift in the power balance on the Korean peninsula, where South Korea has traditionally held a clear advantage in terms of military equipment and Western support. The growing partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang carries alarming implications for international security. Beyond challenging global arms control norms, it exposes the fragility of sanctions imposed by the international community. The exchange of weapons and technology between Russia and North Korea sets a dangerous precedent for future collaborations among authoritarian regimes. For South Korea, This alliance represents a direct and immediate threat. In response, Seoul has accelerated investments in its defense industry. Between 2020 and 2022, South Korea's defense exports surged from $3 billion to over $17 billion. These advancements are no coincidence. South Korea has been investing in cutting-edge technology, developing products such as the K-2 Black Panther tanks, K-9 Thunder howitzers, and KF-21 Boramae fighter jets. These weapons compete directly with the best and most established defense manufacturers from the United States, Russia, and Europe, demonstrating the country's ability to innovate and meet the demands of an increasingly competitive market. Moreover, South Korea has leveraged its growing defense industry as a geopolitical tool. Recently, it signed billion-dollar deals with NATO allies like Poland, Norway, and Estonia, supplying arms and equipment to strengthen Western stockpiles amid the war in Ukraine. These contracts not only generate revenue for Seoul, but also elevate its status as a strategic partner for the West. This growth, however, does not come without challenges. Moscow and its allies are closely watching South Korea's rising influence in the global military sector, especially as Seoul's products reach countries supporting Ukraine. Positioned next to volatile North Korea and in close proximity to major Asian powers like China and Japan, South Korea's location places it at the center of global geopolitical dynamics. In recent years, this strategic role has gained even more prominence due to its increasing contributions to the arsenals of Western powers. Recently, the country has signed multi-billion-dollar contracts to supply ammunition and equipment to nations like Poland and Romania, two of Ukraine's strongest supporters in the conflict. These alliances not only bolster Europe's military stockpiles, but also reaffirm South Korea's status as a vital strategic partner for the United States and NATO, further solidifying its relevance on the international stage. Additionally, South Korea is seen as a key player in the West's effort to counter authoritarian regimes, particularly in Asia, such as China. Its strong alliance with Washington and its growing capacity to export arms put pressure on strategic rivals. However, this prominence also attracts the attention of adversaries like Moscow. The rise of South Korea's geopolitical and military importance brings a series of challenges, testing the country's ability to balance global interests with regional security. One of the main risks is the impact that sending weapons to Ukraine could have on the already delicate stability of the Korean peninsula. Moscow has made it clear that any direct involvement by South Korea in the European conflict would be viewed as a provocation and could result in even greater military support for North Korea. This possibility is an alarming scenario for Seoul. If Pyongyang were to acquire advanced military technology, such as more precise intercontinental ballistic missiles or modern anti-aircraft systems, it could drastically shift the balance of power in the region. Despite its technological advancements, South Korea remains vulnerable due to the proximity of its capital, Seoul, to the northern border, one of the most heavily militarized areas in the world. Another challenge lies in the expectations of its allies. As a key U.S. partner, South Korea is frequently pressured to take a more active stance on global issues, such as the war in Ukraine. However, this position risks alienating China, its largest trading partner, and further complicating its relationship with Russia. The country must carefully balance its foreign policy to avoid unnecessary escalations that could harm its economy or national security. Additionally, the growth of South Korea's defense industry presents its own dilemma. While this expansion increases its global relevance, it may also heighten regional tensions and make South Korea a prime target in future crises. In this context, Seoul faces the difficult task of determining how far it is willing to risk its national security to play a more prominent role on the global stage. South Korea has demonstrated impressive progress in the defense sector, becoming one of the world's leading arms suppliers. This transformation not only strengthens its geopolitical position, but also establishes it as a cornerstone in Western military strategy. The country is now recognized as one of the most reliable manufacturers of cutting-edge weaponry, a shift that has elevated its international standing from a defense consumer to an innovator in military technology. Recent billion-dollar contracts with NATO countries like Poland underscore this growing prominence. The acquisition of tanks and fighter jets by Western allies not only boosts South Korea's position in the global market, but also enhances its ability to influence critical conflicts, such as the one in Ukraine. The combination of cost-effectiveness, technological efficiency, and rapid delivery makes South Korean weapons increasingly attractive in a high-demand military market. Moreover, South Korea's technological expertise extends beyond traditional equipment. The country has heavily invested in developing autonomous weapons, artificial intelligence defense systems, and cutting-edge ballistic missile technology. These innovations place Seoul on par with major military powers, such as the United States and China, solidifying its status as an indispensable player in the global balance of power. However, this growth has raised concerns among its adversaries. Russia and North Korea view South Korea's military ascent with unease, fearing its impact on their own strategies. As South Korea advances on the global stage, questions remain about how its military capabilities might be deployed in international conflicts like Ukraine, and how this will affect its relationship with the United States and other allies. Should South Korea decide to send offensive weapons to Ukraine, the effects could be transformative on the battlefield. The advanced technology of South Korean military equipment, such as K-2 Black Panther tanks and K-9 Thunder howitzers, could provide Ukraine with a significant edge against Russian forces. Furthermore, South Korea's artillery systems and munitions, known for their precision and efficiency, could drastically enhance Ukraine's offensive and defensive capabilities. This decision, however, would not only have military implications. South Korea's direct involvement in the war would strengthen Western unity against Russia, sending a clear message to Moscow. Russian isolation is not confined to the West, but also extends to strategic allies in Asia. On the other hand, such intervention could increase pressure on Moscow, which is already struggling to maintain its military production. The entry of South Korean weapons into the conflict would force Russia to redirect resources to counter more advanced equipment, creating new logistical challenges for its troops. Simultaneously, the military partnership between Russia and North Korea could accelerate in response, heightening the risk of further tensions in Asia. South Korea thus finds itself in a position of great influence, but also significant risk. Its support for Ukraine has the potential to shift the balance of power in the European conflict. But this comes with geopolitical consequences that could reverberate across the Korean peninsula. South Korea's stance on the war in Ukraine reflects the delicate balance the country must maintain between its global commitments and regional security. On one hand, as a strategic U.S. ally and one of the world's leading arms exporters, Seoul has the tools and reasons to take a more active role in supporting the West against Russia. On the other hand, the risk of Russian retaliation, which could further empower North Korea, makes any decision fraught with serious consequences. This complexity is further amplified by the growing partnership between Moscow and Pyongyang, with Russia providing advanced military technology to Kim Jong-un's regime in exchange for logistical support and weapons. The Korean peninsula becomes an even greater concern for Seoul. Every step South Korea takes toward more direct involvement in the war in Ukraine risks triggering reactions that could directly affect its internal stability. At the same time, the rapid development of South Korea's defense industry and its integration into Western supply chains have elevated the country to a new level of global influence. However, this newfound prominence demands more decisive actions, requiring Seoul to align its foreign policy with its domestic challenges. How South Korea balances these two spheres, the global and the regional, will be critical in defining its role on the geopolitical stage in the years to come. The simple truth is that South Korea has emerged as a powerhouse in the Asian economy, fueled by its rapid industrialization and technological innovation, and is now also a leading force in manufacturing military weapons. Over the past few decades, the country has transformed from an agricultural economy into a global leader in sectors like electronics, automotive manufacturing, and biotechnology. Giants such as Samsung, Hyundai, and LG have solidified South Korea's reputation as a hub of technological advancement, with their products dominating international markets and contributing significantly to the nation's GDP. This remarkable growth has earned South Korea its place as one of the top economies in Asia, often referred to as a key Asian tiger. One of the pillars of South Korea's economic success is its commitment to education and research. The government's investment in developing a skilled workforce and fostering innovation has enabled the country to stay ahead in highly competitive industries. Additionally, South Korea has positioned itself as a leader in the digital economy, with advancements in 5G networks, artificial intelligence, and green technologies. These achievements not only bolster its economic standing, but also pave the way for sustainable growth in the face of global challenges. South Korea's economic influence is further amplified by its role in international trade and strategic partnerships. As a major exporter, the country plays a critical role in the supply chains of nations worldwide, particularly in Asia. Free trade agreements with key partners, including the United States, the European Union, and ASEAN countries, have opened new markets and strengthened its economic resilience. Seoul's final decision on whether to send weapons to Ukraine will inevitably be a turning point. Whatever path it chooses will shape not only South Korea's future, but also the dynamics of power in Asia and the West. One thing is certain. In an increasingly polarized world, South Korea stands at the center of some of the most complex and strategic decisions of our time. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. And don't miss this next documentary on the screen. We'll see you there.